So we've got an incoming new Godtear Champion. We don't know much about the champion. We don't know anything really about the champion. What color are they going to represent? What tactica are they going to really push forward? But I'm excited to see some new balance in the game, or I should say imbalance, in that I think that the current lineup of champions is pretty well established. And if we're playing the core missions from the base game, you've got some good counters, you've got some good advantages, you can build some interesting lists, whether that's kind of a focus list or a dedicated list. But now with the interjection of a new champion, I'm interested to see what this season, what this direction of the game takes. Building on that, I hope we get a new mission pack or some new salty tiers to fight over. The missions are absolutely fantastic and dynamic in Godtear. In terms of a skirmish miniature game, it's definitely one of the better mission packs that I've played. But more missions means more ways to utilize your champion. The question for me is not so much the color faction, but is this going to be a ranged champion? And ranged could be physical attacks, arrows, or magic-based or tech-based. Is it going to primarily be a ranged champion or a kind of close-in support or close-in attack champion? There aren't that many dedicated ranged champions. I mean, in theory, or I should say champion slash warband. You know, we've got something like Rangosh that he's a close combat beast, and the raiders are more ranged based. But looking at this idea, I think what the game needs to disrupt it a little bit, and I say disruption in a really good way, would be a champion that is completely focused in support, complete range. Now, the interesting thing with that is if that's the case, now we're coming up a little bit of a duality. Ranged for the henchmen, the followers, the warband, that's one thing, and there's advantages and disadvantages for that. But having a dedicated ranged champion means the duality of I need 2 or 3 in my warband, 2 or 3 other champions, because if I'm staying at range, then I'm not utilizing the power of that champion to claim tiers, to camp tiers, area denial, crossing tier pits, Godtear pits, so this way I can get to the other side. That's very important. That's not to say I can't shoot point blank range, but generally with a ranged champion, I want to hang back, I want to stay back. Now, of course, there's ways to deal with that, depending on the mission. If there's a pile of tiers in my deployment zone, then I'm going to try and camp on that, secure that, use the range champion, especially if it's a Slayer, to keep my opponent away, so at least one tier pit is claimed for me. At the same time, depending on the champions, and this is why there are so many great combos, I could create tier pits, I could spawn tier pits, I could pull tier pits, pull them away from a central mass, camp my champion on there. So that's not to say that dedicated ranged champions don't work, but that's not the main focus of the game. So I think introducing a new one with some interesting powers would really disrupt the game, and I would think that is very exciting. So we've got a new champion incoming, but what is that champion going to be? What faction is it going to be? What is it going to look like? And is it really going to break the mold and now introduce yet a new way to play Godtear?